Hello and welcome to lesson 2 in the lower and intermediate series of 10 lessons for treble viol. I want to look now on page 40 in Viol Player Book 2. This is the beginning of chapter 5. First of all, I want to start with this G major scale in 2 octaves. And for recorder players amongst you who aren't used to playing on ledger lines, this is a really good way of just starting to learn those ledger lines with the bottoms, with the G string. So let's do this pizzicato first, still holding the bow. 2 octaves. Here we go. Remember, we were going to hold fingers down when we string cross. Okay, here we go. 3, 4. Now, I don't know if you noticed then how my hand shape changed from being on the G string as we come round, so the hand and the arm are changing shape. So as I come round here, the hand supports the fingers, and I've still got this ring I've been talking about here, so I've still got this space in between my thumb and my second finger to make a little tunnel, if you like, with the bow. So as I play the G, can you see how if I keep my 3 fingers down for B, I've got to have my hand up to be able to clear the string. If I haven't, you'll hear this. Can you hear? That's the little part of that finger. It's just making contact with the C string. So when you practice a scale, perhaps practice the bottom octave first. And down again. And maybe get that quicker. But each time you get quicker, remember to still hold your B down when you play open C. You're going to be moving it slightly quicker because the whole thing's going quicker, but you're still going to hold it down. And then maybe play the top octave. And then when you're happy with both of those octaves, put them together. And then do it with your eyes closed. As you'll probably get the gist of my lessons now, a lot of things I teach, I like to introduce how they feel. And so not reliant on a visual sense either by looking at the music or by looking at the bow, but just how does it feel in your body as a muscle memory. Okay, let's look at the arpeggio now. And I want to do this pizzicato first. So we learned the bottom octave in Viol Player Book 1 by remembering to hold fingers down. That wasn't supposed to happen. So that when you finish the bottom octave, you look like that. And then what you can do is take your 3rd and 1st finger off and keep your 2nd finger down and use that as a pivot from one octave to the other. So when I finish the top octave, I look like that. So I've got my G down, my B down, and my top G down. And keeping your bottom G down when you play your top G is a good thing to do in general playing. So this is going to be a lot of string crossing. We're going to be going from here all the way up and all the way down again. Let's do it with the left hand. Look at the left hand position. Okay, here we go. So 2, 3. And what I like to do with arpeggios is practice them 3 times. because it's the coordination on the third time that somehow becomes trickier. Fine for 1 and 2. When you come to 3, it's just almost like, oh, starting to relax, and then the coordination perhaps doesn't work. Okay, let's try it 3 times then. Okay, here we go. Bow on string. Sink down, relax. Oh yeah. Okay, here we go. 2, 3. First and sing second finger down when I've finished. How did yours go? Does make you think, doesn't it? It's almost like all the notes just mash into one, and you're not quite sure where you are on each note in each string, but it's a good idea to do it 3 times. Okay, I'd like to look at Cotillion now. And we've got a bit of string crossing in this, and we've got chordal fingering. I haven't marked the chordal fingering this, I've just put a pair of glasses, like watch out. There's an interval of a fourth here. So watch out. It's a 2-3, and this is at the end of the second whole bar, going into the third bar. So let's do the first section. Let's do that pizzicato. Okay, here we go. So 1, 2. With the left hand and the bow, and let's just have a think about what happens in terms of holding fingers down for notes as they come. So what I did for that top G, I then put 1 and 2 down for C, and then I didn't move my G until I needed it for the 4th finger on the A string. Let's try that together. Here we go. 1, 2. So it looks suspiciously like an arpeggio, doesn't it? And should feel a bit like an arpeggio as well. With all the weights in the fingers, and still with my fingers up. Okay, let's try that one more time and go on this time. Here we go. So, bow on string, sink down, and 1, 2. Now this next bit, you've got to go from the 4th string on the C to the top string. And the way we're going to do that is to keep the bow on the string, make sure the pressure is on with the 2nd finger on the hair, and we're going to rock round silently. So let's just practice doing that, shall we? So this is bar 1, 2, 3, bar 4, and we're starting with a push bow. Okay, here we go. 3, 4. And again, here we go. 3, 4. And the idea is that when we leave that D, the D on the D minim, we're going to try and leave it ringing. So not this. Can you hear how the string, because the bow killed the resonance. And I think this is one of the trickiest things to do on the violin, is to leave a string ringing. So why don't we practice this on adjacent strings? So, and then we'll work up to the D string. So what I mean by this is to do it to the next string here. So can you hear that I've left that string ringing, but I've landed on the E string? Try it with me. Here we go. 3, 4. 1, 2. So I'm getting off the minim D slightly earlier because it's almost like a dotted crotchet in playing 1, 2, and then by the time I get to the third beat, I'm on the next string. So there's that tiny movement which is happening almost before the end of the minim, so that I can get off the string and let it ring. Now let's try it to the A string. Here we go. 3, 4, 2. Oh, mine was a terrible squeak then. Let's try it again. Here we go. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So if I was to do this and count aloud, by the time I get to the A string, it's on the third beat. I'll show you what I mean. 1, 2, 3. That's quite a fast bow movement, isn't it? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, yeah. Harder to detect that ringing D then. Should we try it together? Here we go. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again. 1, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's try it to the top string. Okay, here we go. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Are you there? It's tricky, isn't it? It's such a long way to go, and it's such a fast bow movement as well, and it's quite tricky in that easy to do that and then move around, but much harder to do this, to get off the string and leave it ringing. Let's try it again. So this is to the D string, top string. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's something for you to practice. Okay, let's do the second section now. And we'll do this straight away with the bow, I think. Here we go. So, bow on the string, crotchet away from the tip because that's all you need. Here we go. Just going to move my bow hold down a bit. Okay, here we go. Heavy arm. Here we go. 3, 4, 1, 2. Let's just look at that phrase. Bar A in bar 6. Now I know it's not marked that you hold your G down in bar 6 on the 4th beat, but you're supposed to sort of do it and feel it if it's wrong. So what I mean about doing things is with a feeling sense. That should feel wrong. Because we're coming back to the G, we might as well hold it down, mightn't we? Okay, let's look at that section again then. So this is the double bar. Here we go. So bow on string. 1, 2. The same thing applies to the G at the end of bar 10. You can hold it down. Once it's down, you've done your chordal fingering. Because it's the penultimate note and the last note of this piece, isn't it? So it's quite quick, isn't it? It's 54 a minim. Quite quick. So that chordal fingering needs quite a bit of practice, doesn't it? Because you probably find that you can do it at a certain speed and then it gets quicker. Then maybe your fingers don't work so well or the coordination goes with the bow. So don't do it quick until you're really happy with the coordination. So I'd just like to have a look at page 51 and the principles of bowing that Forqueray talks about on this page. In particular, the fourth principle, where he talks about dynamics. I just want to read it to you. It is the use of the second finger on the bow, the middle finger, which is the prime means of expression and which gives character to the music. For this, it is necessary that the bow hair is placed at a cross with a joint on the second finger, and that it never leaves this position. This finger presses the hair against the string to make more or less sound. By pressing and relaxing it imperceptibly, it makes expression, the soft or the loud. So that's this, where we're talking about more or less second finger, isn't it? If it is pressed too hard, it gives much harshness to the performance and crushes the bow on the string, and this one must absolutely avoid. So too much pressure and the string dies, even with a note. You can hear the harshness by having too much pressure. So it's just a right amount of pressure. Now, how do you think about what is the right amount of pressure? Well, you, in a way, you don't have to think about it because you respond to the sound that you're making orally. But how you think about where it comes from is something you do need to think about. And I think this can come from three ways. It can come directly from the finger pushing down towards the floor, not towards you, pushing the hair towards you, definitely not, but down, using gravity. So that's the first way, it can come downwards. It can come, that this is the feeling of that, the hair moving. It can come from the wrist rotating anti-clockwise here. Do you feel like it's your wrist moving anti-clockwise which makes the second finger push down as a reflex action? Or does it come right back here from your elbow? And one of these things will resonate with you, excuse the pun, whether it's right back here from the elbow, or whether it's from the wrist turning, or whether it's from the second finger just moving the hair on its own. One of those things will think, oh yes, that's how I do it. So let's now go to the Ronde, and we go to the fourth line. We can see the first bar is forte and the second bar is mezzo piano. So these are very simple notes. Let's try it together. Here we go. 3, 4. So with the first time, pressure with the second finger, and the second time, less pressure. So when you play quietly, as I mentioned earlier, you can support the hair with the tip of the third finger. And you can play incredibly quietly by taking the weight of the bow and having less bow speed. You could hear the difference then, couldn't you? It was very different. So we're thinking then about having the second finger as your loud finger and your third finger as your quiet finger. But it's quite important at this stage we think of them as fingers that are putting in colour to the music, expression, dynamics. That the second finger doesn't stay on all the time. And I know this might be contrary to maybe what you've come across before. It just might be different, but if you think of these two fingers as having a specific role with the bow hold, it can help to make your bow more expressive. So in the fourth line there, on the last crotchet, you can see I put a staccato note to make the note shorter. And it was there that I started to support the weight of my bow because I didn't want this to happen. Can you hear how that resonance stopped? Because I kept the pressure on. But if I support the finger, support the hair with the tip of my third finger, then I've let the string ring when I do the string cross. And let me show you again. So I'm not lifting the bow off, and I'm trying not to anyway. So that was supporting it. Now I'll do it not supporting it. it's much stronger, isn't it? And we need that the last crotchet in that bar to be weak. And let's go from the beginning now. And if you look on the second line, we've got exactly the same music, but with a different dynamic with piano. So not difficult music, but quite a lot to think about in the right hand here. Okay, here we go. So bow on string, here we go, 3, 4. Music that we play in early music doesn't have any dynamics mark, does it? It's up to us as the players to put dynamics in. And one of the reasons that I've added dynamics to all the pieces in these books is to just get this as a discipline that comes with phrasing. And I think if you practice and learn how to do dynamics now, that when you're sitting down in consort with a piece of music with no dynamics on it, you automatically want to phrase off, because that's how you've learnt it. And I think this is a really important thing to learn at this stage. So I found in the first line, as I had that diminuendo at the end of that first line, I was starting to add my third finger, my quiet finger, to the diminuendo. Should we try that together again? So by the time I got to the end of the first line, my finger was in place and I was playing quietly with my third finger. Let's try it again and then we'll go on. So, bow on string, okay, sink down, 3, 4. Did you get your second finger on the hair at the end of the second line? Or your third finger on the hair at the end of the second line? Because we've still got a diminuendo, haven't we? And it was piano anyway. So I think mine went on before then. So third line then, loud and then quiet. It was interesting, wasn't it? I haven't marked a pull bow in the third line, in the third bar, because I didn't want to disturb the line. So what it means is that you have to be down here on a pull bow to do the quavers. Let me show you from the beginning of that line. So this is where we're talking about the use of the bow and where are we on the bow. Okay, here we go. So 3, 4. Now we're down here. Playing quietly. And because we're down here, we're further down the bow, I've got my second finger on the hair to be able to play it quietly, because this is a louder part of the bow, isn't it, here? So if I want to play quietly here, which is quite tricky, I need to support the hair with the tip of the third finger. And I'm not going to be playing quavers all the way up the bow. I'm going to be playing them here because they're quavers. We only need a quaver amount of bow. And then I can get back to the tip with that minim. Because if I did it working up towards the bow, I might increase the bow and then make it louder, and I want to keep it quieter. So quavers more at this end, just for that bit. Okay, so we've got on the last line, we've got another push bow, haven't we? So we have to do retake at the end of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line, and then retake. So retake, just to remind, it's lifting off with the tip of the third finger and placing the bow where you want it. So let's just look at that retake then. Let's do the last bar of the 5th line. Here we go. 3, 4. And then back. It's quite a quick movement of the bow, isn't it? Probably quicker than you think. Are you keeping your fingers down? Certainly we had fingers down where we had this at the beginning of the 5th line on the C. That should feel right. This should feel wrong. It keeps the resonance holding that second finger down. It changes it completely. Okay, so if we were to do the last line and just practice the dynamics, thinking about the right hand. So this piece isn't really about the left hand at all, apart from holding the odd finger down. It's about making sure that we're having the right amount of expression with the bow. Okay, so let's just do the last line. Here we go. 3, 4. Can you see how I finished? I've still got my G sharp down. I've still got my tunnel here with an open string, and I'm supporting, taking the bow off with the tip of my third finger. So there's a lot in that, isn't there? And what I've tried to do with these lessons is to not have the same piece for each instrument. I've tried to distribute all the pieces out across the 3 viols for these lessons. But I do just want to show you the beginning of the Italian ground, which is on the next page. This is just one of the most beautiful pieces in the entire world, and it just does. I'm just going to do a couple of lines, because the use of the bow in this is really important, and supporting the bow where you want to be weak is really important as well. And this happens in bar 4, where we've got 2 C's, haven't we? We've got a back bow, and it's the end of a phrase. We do not want to be doing this. We don't want to make it stronger. It's a third beat. It's a weak beat. So do you see how we're using the bow now in a much more sophisticated way to play dynamically? So let's have a look at this then, just at the beginning. So bow on the string. So weak third beats then. Here we go. 2, 3. So quite a bit in that, isn't there? Try to make it as smooth as you can. Don't use too much bow for the last beat in every bar. And an open D. So in bar 6, I think an open D is just beautiful there. So I've played the open D, then I've got a couple of quavers on a slur. So now I'm holding the the B to help me find the G sharp. And again, my hand is up and round supporting my fingers. I know we're talking about the bow, but this is just left hand technique that I want you to get into the feel of doing. Okay, let's look at the second line. And this is probably about as much as I want to do here, because I'm saving this for the tenor. Yeah, I really want to do this on the tenor, lower intermediate. So this is bar 9 then. Here we go. 2, 3. Interesting there, isn't it? Because in set 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, we've got to do a weak beat on a push bow. Let's just do that again and examine it, shall we? So this is loud. 1, 2, 3. So by the time I've got to that push bow on a weak beat, on a strong beat, sorry, I'm supporting with my third finger on the hair. But then I'm taking it off again for the next note. And of course, I've marked lots of dynamics in here, crescendos and diminuendos, depending on where the emphasis is. And I think in bar 33, where we've got lots of the quavers, the quaver run, I think when you do that, try not to play it like a study. It's very easy to think, right, I've got lots of quavers here, I'm just going to play them like this. Because there's no phrasing or excitement in that. That for me is, that's quite an important line. And the way to think about this in a way is to, as the music comes up, get louder. As it comes down, get quieter. Let me show you what I mean. So it's just being expressive, isn't it? And actually, you know, being expressive with the bow is what I always think in teaching is like the icing on the cake. The making of the cake is in the learning of the notes, and the icing of the cake is where you play with dynamics. One more thing about this, you can see in bar 17, 18 that I've used a fourth finger and then an open string, and that happened again at that passage at 33, didn't it, where we had fourth finger and open string, and that's basically to keep more fingers on more notes on one string than the other, because we don't really want to have a string cross for one note. It changes the line in a way, and it's much easier for the bow to have two notes on one string and two notes on another string, and that's why we do that fingering there. Anyway, enjoy this piece, and if you want some more advice on how to play it, have a look at the tenor video when that comes out, and have a look at the tenor video. Okay, see you in lesson 3.